Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for your attendance and participation this evening. Welcome to the 2025 annual Scholarships or Humanitarian Scholarships Expo. This is an excellent opportunity for universities across the country to showcase the scholarships that they have on offer for humanitarian entrance. So that includes both people seeking asylum and people with permanent protection. We are recording this. We will be hosting this on our website. That's refugeeeducation.org.au. I'll pop the link into the chat if you don't already follow us. And I'm going to have to do a next slides, please, because I'm not in control of the slides. Jason, can you move me over, please? So we'll be going through a pretty tight schedule tonight. We know it's after hours for many of you. The reason why we do it at this time of the evening is to make it available to as many people as possible, school students and other mature age students who might be interested in university. Scholarships, of course, are not just for school leavers, and I'm sure all my colleagues from universities across the country will be making that point. We're going to start with a brief overview of the scholarships movement in Australia, and then we'll hear from our wonderful ex-student, current student, and also university practitioner Asma about her experience. And then we're going to have a short moment for Q&A, and we'll move into state or territory-based breakout rooms. We've got 4 rooms this evening. We've got New South Wales and ACT. Then we have a room for Victoria, we have a room for Queensland, and we have a room for Western Australia. New South Wales and Victoria are packed sessions, and they've been given a very tight time to speak. WA and Queensland is a pretty tight session tonight as well. WA is a little bit empty, but there's still been lots of information for you. Really grateful for all our colleagues from universities across the country who've joined us this evening to share exciting information about their scholarships and the opportunities that are on offer for 2026. But before we get started, I would like to please, Jason, acknowledge that I'm joining you tonight on the lands of the Wiradjuri people here in Melbourne. It's not my normal place to to acknowledge country from. I am usually working on Awabakal lands in Newcastle. I would like to acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded and that this always was and will be Aboriginal land. And I want to pay my respects to Aboriginal owners, custodians of the land on which we meet, and pay my respects to the leaders, both past, present, and emerging. If you don't know me, my name is Sally. I am now the CEO of Refugee Education Australia. I'm going to give you a very quick overview of the history of scholarships in Australia and pay great homage to some of the real advocates in the room who are here with us today. Refugee Education Australia was previously RESIG, Refugee Education Special Interest Group, but this year we took the brave, maybe foolish move into becoming a not-for-profit, and we've just been awarded a charity status as well. So we'll be working in a slightly different way going forward than we have done before, but still focusing very much on our 3 kind of pillars. That's building a network, and you're all part of that network this evening. We also develop resources, and the scholarships table that you can see here is a key example of that. This is a key source of truth that we host on our website. We've often worked with colleagues from Deakin Create, and thank you to Karen, who's online with us this evening, to curate this information across the country to make sure that we've got accurate information that we can pass to communities and community advocates, civil society organisations who work with new Australians, so recently or newly arrived refugees, asylum seekers, or people with refugee-like experience. I think you might know, but just in case you don't, the scholarships movement originally started at Curtin University. There's been pockets of ad hoc scholarships for many years. So it's Curtin, it started back in the early noughts. But in 2015, there was a pretty severe push against people seeking asylum having access to scholarships. In fact, it led to the removal of the special payment for anyone who was doing a long-term study program, which prevented people from being able to access programs that exceeded more than 9 months. And that's where this kind of movement grew from strong work from Refugee Council of Australia and the Multicultural Youth Advocacy Network. I know Angela from Mayan is with us this evening. And we, Refugee Education Special Interest Group, kind of grew out of that movement. So our primary interest has been for the last 10 years on opening up access to scholarships. So while that started with just a couple of universities, we now have most universities across the country. We've got to about 2/3 of the universities, and you can check our scholarships table, who have scholarships. With the exception of the Northern Territory, every state and territory across Australia has a scholarship. Although at the moment, South Australia is experiencing a merger between the universities of Adelaide and University of South Australia to become Adelaide University, and so they don't have an offering this year, but ordinarily the University of Adelaide has long offered an asylum seeker on a humanitarian scholarship. So on our scholarships table, and Jason, perhaps if you can just go back to that for a second, you will see that we also have a naughty list. We have a nice list and we have a naughty list of the universities that do not offer scholarships. This is by way of just acknowledging that there is more work to do, and that we are strongly still working on strongly encouraging universities across the country, so all public universities, to have at least one, and that's not enough, scholarships for people seeking asylum who are locked out of higher education because of the temporariness of their visa. Refugee Education Australia also has a strong vision of achieving equity status for refugee students in the same way that we recognise low SES, First Nations, rural and remote, and students with disabilities. You might have noticed that in the Universities Accord report last year, there was recognition of emerging equity groups. And so we're going to really work hard to push for federal recognition, not just for higher education, but also stronger recognition through a unified refugee education framework. And on that note, watch this space. We will have a great State of Refugee Education report coming out later this year. If you've got any questions about scholarships on offer, we do keep our scholarships table updated. We do survey our university partners on a regular basis. And John Chan, who might give us a wave, John is our wonderful website guy, and many other things, also representing UTS this evening. John's been busy updating this as well. So if you've got any feedback on the scholarships table, we would love to hear it. But that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to our wonderful colleague, Asma. Asma is an astounding human, and it's a real pleasure to be able to learn from Asma as a previous scholarships holder, but now a Master of Educational Leadership student and an equity practitioner at Monash University. Asma's really had quite the journey and is a wonderful role model for many other students who might be thinking about university studies. So, Asma, thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Sally. I'm blushing with that introductory. I'm so grateful to be here today in front of you all, presenting. Just before I proceed to begin my presentation or talk about myself, I would like to acknowledge the people of the Kulin Nation, where I'm joining from. I pay my respect to their elders, past and present too. Sally, to start our today's sessions, would you like to ask those questions that we have discussed before?
Yes, absolutely. But I'll probably get the wording wrong because I wasn't expected to do that, Asma.
No, it's okay. I just said to give you a bit of a background about myself. I've arrived in Australia in 2013 by boat with my mother and my sister. The journey that it is a bit of a struggle, I use that word as a sarcasm, that it's daring for the males to take, but my mother bravely took us and brought us to this land of opportunity, a land of that was more than just a home for us, but a place that we can build our future. And I'm so grateful for that brave young woman that I have in my life to give us a second life. We arrived in Australia by boat. We were at the Christmas Island for some times, and my journey with my path to education was not short of a struggle, but I'm so fortunate that I come across with a great people that had a caring and showed me and guide me step by step what's the best opportunity that come. So yeah.
Asma, how did you decide to go to university and what steps did you take to get in?
I'm so great that Yelda introduces herself in the chat from Afghanistan. I think education is in our just that we were so thirsty for education because that's something that we don't have that opportunity in homeland in Afghanistan. We see our sisters that are struggling, that don't go to high school, which is so ironic, where it's a human's right at the moment. Just coming to Australia and completing year 12, I was, and just being ready with my classmates that they were so excited about journeying and joining tertiary education and university, I was hoping the same thing. So it was something that was expected of me. It should have been in my plan because I really wanted to do more, become more, and to do that, education in university was one of the necessity. But then it was a bit of a shock in 2016 when I came to the news that unfortunately, because of my visa that I came by boat in 2013, unfortunately, I don't have that right to study. I'm categorized as an international student and I'm expected to pay that amount of money up front. So yes, something that it was, I did not share that with my mother on that day because it would have been heartbreaking because we came to Australia with only a backpack of three clothes. So it's something that we really wanted to do more. We had the potential, but it was a hiccup that when we came to the opportunity on that time.
And how did you find and get your scholarship, Asma?
No, it's a very good question, and I really wanted to share this in here because individualism is very crucial. Every single one of us have a unique journey. What I'm sharing today worked best for me, but not might not be a good opportunity, might not work for other students who are here. So I really want to highlight that. In 2016, I had to repeat my year 12 again in 2017 because unfortunately, I've missed the enrollment time and importantly, I've missed the scholarship application period. And I was awarded opportunity to go TAFE, but during that time I had to pay for the TAFE and it was equivalent for an international fee that applies to me. So repeating your TAFE was financially suitable because it was not it was free at that point, let's put it that way. But at the same time, my school accepted me to repeat year 12 again. So just taking that toll upon myself, being a same year 12 boat, but proactively uh, going to the resources that are available to me help me to find opportunity and learn more about the scholarship itself. During my time, there was limited and countable number of scholarships that were available to the students. So I usually had an appointment with the case managers at the ASRC to discuss what's available to me, how to complete my application. And during that time, C's was not available to me, something that we would discuss today, but now they are for the students. So how can I proactively advocate for myself that I am a refugee was one thing that I have learned a lot from that.
Thanks, Asma. I mean, it's great to also give a good shout out to our colleagues at organisations like the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre in Victoria and Asylum Seeker Centre in Sydney and CARAD in WA and many others, and I'm sure I've missed some, so apologies, who offer really important support for students with the application process. At the end of this presentation, as a whole group, we'll talk about some other workshops that we're going to offer to students this year to help with application writing. Asma, what were the hardest parts of studying at Monash, and how did your scholarship support you?
Oh, that's a great question because reflecting back, as a first in the family attending university, one of the struggle that I had was to understand my role, what's expected of me, what are available to me. Because when I shared my experience, I could not resonate with the domestic students. They were great friends for me, guiding me step by step. But one thing that I found it very hard is to know who I am, what works best for me, what are the style of academically that benefits me, but at the same time, my responsibility as a daughter for my family, because after all, I was a carer for my mother too during that time. So being for my family too was the juggle that I had during my studies. But I was so fortunate that I had a support from team that looks after the humanitarian scholarship recipients. And I'm so grateful for Jude, who's here too, because I registered as a carer at Monash University that allowed me to attend to the appointments that I had to be without impacting my studies too. These are the things that I've learned that I needed to register with them. Some services that are available for the students, but the student needs to be proactively be involved with them. Additionally, learning about health services that are available to the students, and then also mentorship, some things that we need to not take them lightly too, because the education system in Afghanistan and in Iran is completely and totally different to Australia. But at the same time, the learning that we have from a year 12 to university is different too. So just that shift, that transition comes with its own challenge that we had to overcome step by step.
Well, I mean, you're speaking about it so beautifully, Asma, and we know that you succeeded in that degree, and you've achieved what you set out to with the scholarship. What do you do now, and how did your Monash degree and scholarship prepare you for it?
Um, My role as Monash started from my journey as a student. I'm an international student officer that looks after international students, but I'm so passionate about our humanitarian scholarship recipients. So working side by side with Jude, having a great mentor, taught me to give that to other students. Just when it came to our journey as a humanitarian scholarship recipients, we come across with the path that, okay, if we do this way, it might help our students. And I'm so fortunate that in my role, I can do that. But it's just that outside of that, it's just that as a student, I took this opportunity to explore my pathway too, because when I started with Monash University, my plan was to become a doctor and pursue medicine. But in my second year, I came across that, okay, this is not for me, this does not work for me. But social work and equity work is something that I'm so passionate about and aligns with my value. Something that took a bit of a time, took a bit of a volunteering activity to learn more about myself, but at the same time, nourish that soft skills that I came across with those opportunities. And in today's session, I really encourage a student, especially on their first and second year, to explore those opportunities that comes to you. Talk, join your clubs and societies as a student, volunteer with them, discuss this with your mentors. And if you can, if you want to become a doctor, volunteer at the hospital. It will shift you. It will encourage you if you want to do this further, but it gives you an opportunity to explore our health system in Australia. Because what if my pursuit and what I thought about medicine was completely different when I've worked there. So something that I encourage our future doctors to do so.
Thank you, Asma. I'm sure we could make the same point about many different professions. Um, I don't know that we could have chosen a better student, although I'm sure we could. I'm sure there are many other asthmas out there who can tell their story and potential asthmas out there who'll be able to tell their story in future scholarships, showcases like this. Does anyone have a question for Asma or any comments? A reminder about respectful engagement, and also if you can introduce yourself and your pronouns as you ask a question. Uh, Hello, Yauda. Thank you, Yauda, and then Mayan. Sorry, Mayan, I've lost your name.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for this opportunity. And it's just a comment for Asma. Thank you, Asma, for being such a great inspiration for me. And I'm really happy to see you in this position as a girl from Afghanistan. And I totally understand the way that you have come here and the struggle that you have faced. So I'm really proud of you.
Thank you, Yelda. I'm blushing in between, but I'm hoping that we open that opportunity for others who are in Afghanistan and who wants to have this opportunity, because we have got a great students, great potential, but they don't have that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Asma, such an important reminder to us all that anyone who's already in Australia, with obviously degrees of difference in terms of access, and we absolutely have been working hard. I think collectively everyone in the room is working hard to open opportunities to people who are trapped outside of being able to access higher ed because of that international student issue, that price issue that you described. Also, just a quick plug before we turn to Sarah from Maya, New South Wales, about the refugee student settlement pathway, which is bringing in people who are displaced in the Asia Pacific. We've got 20 excellent students coming to Australia very early next year. We'll be starting at 8 incredibly courageous and excellent institutions. You know who you are, but a quick shout out to Deakin, to Curtin, to UTS, to University of Queensland, to ANU, to Western Sydney, and to one other university, University of Melbourne. How could I forget? Really excellent to see. Sorry, University of Melbourne. Really excellent to see that we're able to push for a little bit more access for folks who are stuck outside of the country. Not unfortunately from Afghanistan at this point, but we'll continue to advocate hard for expansion. Sarah from Maya, New South Wales, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Asma, I have a question around supporting young people who of refugee migrant background when they make that transition from high school to university, and if they express feeling lost, that first year of uni being really hard, having to pay for everything and all those factors. Do you have any advice for someone who supports young people in that situation?
Sarah, that's a great question that every day I'm learning in my role currently. One approach is not the best approach, because when we're talking about refugees, we're talking about different individuals with the different pathways that come to Australia, and we need to have that consideration too. The way that we support the students with the visa 790 is not the best way that we can support our recent refugees that arrived in Australia. Let's be mindful of that too. So understand the frustration, the issue that they're facing, see being proactively advocate on their behalf to minimize them telling their story is what I've seen that works best, because it is exhausting to tell your story to one person to another person in terms of an organization. And I'm so grateful that we are doing proactively to do that at Monash across our internal services. But then, Sarah, as an overall, we really want to open opportunities for the refugee students. When we're talking about opportunities, it's very important to highlight that we don't know what we don't know. And that question tricks that, because as a domestic student, it's so easy for my friends, Tracy, to go to the hospital, pass on their resume with the confidence. But for me to do that, it shook me. took me at least 2 weeks to do that. And I didn't know that I can go to the hospitals and volunteer independently and be part of that cohort. Something that I really want to highlight is the fact that, Sarah, if you come across with any students, let them know about all. It will be overwhelming, but a follow-up of an email will help on that side too. And yes, it's just that starting from the beginning, step-by-step guiding is another way that we can support.
Thanks, Sarah. That's an excellent question. It's definitely something that Refugee Education Australia is going to be working on hard, both in terms of building capacity. We recently developed a careers module, which will be hopefully that's for university careers teams to share, which is looking at that kind of hidden back end job market and some of the conventions that Asma just spoke to. So we're certainly hoping to contribute useful resources. I think if you look at Deakin Create, they have some really excellent resources as well. I'm sure there are others in the group in the call who produce really useful resources that help to bridge the transition. But certainly we are of the view that universities and anyone who works adjacent to universities and schools could do a better job of supporting that transition for our new Australian community members, and of course Mayan New South Wales and all the other Mayan orgs. You have an important role to play. I'm going to, unless anyone's got a burning question, I'm going to.
There is a question that I really would love to answer.
Yes,
It's from Asadullah. A great question about the scholarships. What I really encourage everyone in this group is that when it comes to the scholarship, give your best to any opportunity that you see. Every institution has got a scholarship page. Deakin University, Melbourne, RMIT, Swinburne. Read over it, see what is available to you and apply. Just put your application in, and you can call university to have a follow-up about your application. I know it is exhausting and it's a very challenging and terrifying action to do so, but their team will assist you and guide you step by step. And if there is any opportunity available, they will be get back to you, especially about PhDs, because PhD pathway is a bit different. Postgraduate scholarships are a bit different across different universities. So just give your all. And yes, with the saying of shoot for the moon, aim for the moon and shoot for the stars, that might work.
It's great advice, but sadly, it's not possible to apply easily for a PhD position if you are in Pakistan. And anyone else who's joining us from outside of Australia, we're probably the wrong forum. SkillPath will be doing some information about the refugee student settlement pathway. PhDs are also very, very difficult. Not impossible. Asma's absolutely right. You should totally shoot for the stars. But if you do have, if you're interested in a PhD, you really need to find a supervisor, and it's incumbent on any person who wants to do a PhD to produce a decent proposal and a resume and send it to potential supervisors, because you can't apply for a PhD without supervisors. You can then apply for an international studentship, a higher degree by research scholarship, but they're very competitive. So just, establishing expectations. But Asad, you're probably better to speak to look at universities in areas that you're interested in, and then to reach out to supervisors directly if it's a PhD that you're interested in. But thanks for the question. We are really excited. This year is the first year we're doing this. We are going to be running some sessions for students directly. So we've got a great cast of excellent humans. In a couple of weeks, on the 19th of August, we've got Jude Little. Asma was just singing her praises, and quite rightly. Jude and Asma will be running a workshop for students who are interested, or potential students who are interested in applying for a scholarship, on how to write a good motivation statement. These are the kind of conventions that sit behind scholarships. And if you are from a university and you work with scholarships on the regular, you are very welcome to get involved in these sessions as well. We need all hands on deck to make sure that any prospective applicants are being supported as much as possible. On the 10th of September, we'll have wonderful Kiana, who's here, and the just irreplaceable Sue Oldham from Swinburne. So Kiana is from Swinburne and working in a kind of hybrid of Sue's role. For those of you who've been in the space for a long time, you'll know that Sue Oldham was one of the OG. She may be the GOAT, actually. I don't think she's here tonight, but we'll say that out loud so it's recorded for the recording. Student support caseworker for people seeking asylum and refugees. I think a lot of us have worked with Sue a lot, and we're so thankful to have her and Kiana running a session on describing your community engagement and leadership, another key part of an application for a university scholarship. And then on the 8th of October, we'll have Maya Cranich and some colleagues from the Asylum Seeker Centre in Sydney, who will be giving us a workshop on how to tell your story. So really being able to tell, a positive account, being able to frame experiences in a way that tells your story, that doesn't traumatize. This will be obviously all of this with trauma-informed lens, but all with a view to being able to write the best application that you can to be competitive for scholarships. They are competitive. Some universities have quite a few. Some only have a couple. This is really at the discretion of the universities, and there are actual constraints on how many universities can give. I'm sure that every university represented here would love to give hundreds and hundreds, but there are financial constraints. Refugee Education Australia would argue there are fewer constraints, financial constraints, than many university executives would have us believe. But we know there are constraints. These are hard-fought opportunities to get scholarships, and therefore you do need to put your best foot forward. As Asma said, there's plenty of people supporting both within universities and outside of universities, but we're also running these student workshops to be able to give an extra bit of support and also to lighten the load from our colleagues, not to replace their excellent work, but there are colleagues who are doing a lot of the heavy lifting to help universities to find applicants for their scholarships. And so that's what this is about. Please do share this information. We've got an Insta channel and a LinkedIn channel. But for now, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to open up 3 breakout rooms. We're going to combine Queensland and WA. We have a room for New Zealand. No, we don't. We have one for New South Wales and the ACT, and we have a bumper room in Victoria. Victoria, you really are the education state. You have the most presentations this evening. We've given our presenters some pretty firm instructions on how many slides they can use and how much time they can speak for. But there is space in there for questions and answers, and each university will give you a follow-up contact. This is, let me be clear, everyone, this is for people who are already in Australia. So if you're not in Australia, this is not, unfortunately, the session for you. There will be another session on the refugee student settlement pathway. For that, you should follow the Skill Path Australia website. We will send it out as part of the pack for those of you who are outside of Australia. But for now, thank you, everyone. We won't come back together, so you'll choose the state that you're most interested in. Lisa Wood from ACU is going to be bouncing all over the place because ACU have campuses all over the country. And thank you to Lisa. She's really got the hardest job now for the rest of the session. I'm going to sit in the main room, so if you've got any questions, if it's about, if you're outside of Australia and you've got questions about, for example, PhD scholarships, you can hang with me in the main room. Otherwise, we'll invite you to choose your best destination. Jason?
I've done the breakout room, Sally. They're open. So hopefully everyone should be able to choose the room that they'd like to go into. If you need to swap rooms, just head back to the main session and Sally can put you or help you get into another one.
Thanks, everyone. Stay in touch. Follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram.